Hey guys, what is going on? My name is Kailh Thornton and welcome back to another video. Today we're doing something a little bit different from my bog standard tech reviews. We're actually delving into the world of custom keyboards a little bit with my first custom build today, so super excited to show it off to you guys. So stick around, we're gonna go through the process of me building it, some of the components I use, so whether you're maybe thinking about trying out or you already do it, follow along to see how I went through my process and what the end result turned out to be. So let's hop right into it. What I did for my build and what I would definitely recommend to anyone that's maybe just getting into the custom keyboard world, such as myself, is I went ahead and got a hot swappable PCB, which is a 5-pin hot swappable, so it'll be acceptable to any kind of switch. And the reason why you'd want to choose a hot swap over one where you have to solder or desolder to take your switches out is you can just take switches right out or pop them right in. It's easy as that. The pins automatically connect without having to solder. So with the absolute plethora of switches there is on the market from different brands as well as different types within those brands, there's so many things to try out, and I want to be able to try out different ones and maybe see what I'm going to like best. So that's the reason why I went with the hot swappable PCB. The case I'm using for the build today, and it's more like a kit in itself, it's the Ninja 71 from Monster Gear. So you get your case as well as your PCB and also your top plate and stuff like that. So you only need to provide things like your switches, and if you want to, it does come with stock stabilizers in it, but you can switch those out, which is what I ended up doing just to get a little bit better sound out of it. Again, it's 71, meaning 71 keys or 71 switches in it. So it is on that smaller form factor side, which is perfect for me because I don't like to venture, definitely not anything over a TKL. So having the smaller form factor was definitely something I was looking for. So this definitely fit the bill as far as that goes. With the case, it does have backlighting behind the keys on the PCB, as well as some lighting in the case, which doesn't look spectacular, but it still met my needs and basically what I want, because I'm not a huge sucker for having crazy RGB light shows on my keyboard in the first place. But overall, I'm really happy with the case and the way it looks and feels. For switches that I did pop in the board, I went with Kailh Reds. That's basically just because I like linear switches and I haven't got to try out a wide variety of them, and Kailh has never been a brand that I've actually gotten to try out. So I decided to pick up the Reds as a good budget linear switch for me to try out, and that's what I'm using in today's board. But if you guys have any favorite switches, definitely let me know in the comments down below, because I might want to try those out because I already have some ideas of switches I want to pop in this board to check out the different sound profiles. Again, the board did come with stock stabilizers on it, but they did not sound very good, giving me a lot of rattle and overall just not great stabilizers. So I ended up picking some authentic cherry stabilizers or plate mounted stabilizers from Zeal PC to use along with the board itself. For keycaps, finally, I did go with a set from Alferior Keys, which as you can see is like gradient blue. I thought it fit really nice with the theme I was going for, which is more of like an ocean or a sky color theme. Overall, not super happy with the quality of the keycaps. They are pretty good. I'm definitely gonna be looking to get some different sets, trying out some different materials as well. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a sound test now of everything stock on the board, so nothing's been changed, just popped everything in how it was, so you guys can hear how it sounded at the base before all the modding happened. As you guys can hear, switches themselves don't sound too bad. The stabilizers though definitely sounded really bad, I would say, on the edge of being horrible, giving me a ton of rattle. So the first thing I had to do was pop open that case and basically just pull everything apart, because not only did I need to get access to that PCB in there to do some of those initial mods I wanted to, but I also wanted to see how everything was put together because I was just curious how it worked. Once I did have it apart though, it was time to get those new stabs ready. So the first thing we had to do to them was go ahead and clip them to get those extra legs off the bottom, because where those extra legs are at, it'll hit on the PCB, which causes some of that rattling or that extra noise when it's hitting on it. After clipping those little extra legs off, I went ahead and lubed them, and for all the lube throughout the entire build, I was using Krytox 205 G0, so if you guys wondered which one it is, I'll have it linked down in the description too below if you want to take a look at it for yourself. After lubing them, I went ahead and popped them back together, and then took the old ones out of the PCB and went ahead and popped the new ones in. The last thing that needed to be done on the PCB before I put the board back together was I went ahead and put some band-aids below where those stabilizers are going to be hitting, which also helps dampen that sound. If you're wondering why it's called the Band-Aid mod, it's because a lot of people just use Band-Aids in general to put it on. Obviously, you can use other things like tape and whatnot to dampen the sound as well. But for me, we had Band-Aids on hand, so it worked well for me to put that on. I do plan on putting some foam in the bottom of the case as well in the future. For now, I just don't have access to any or have any on hand with me. So I'm put the case back together for now, but I do plan on putting this part again in the near future in putting some extra mods to help with that sound profile. I was pretty happy with the way the Kailh Red sounded stock, but I was really curious to not only hear it, but go through the process of lubing and filming them, so that's what I ended up doing with these switches. To start that process, of course, you have to open them all up, so I used a switch opener that I bought from online, which I'll have linked in the description below too if you guys want to check that out, and separated all the individual pieces of the switch into different containers just to keep it organized. And then, of course, begins the actual tedious task of actually lubing all the switches. For lube, again, I was using that Krytox 205G0, which is a pretty standard lube for all linear switches and pretty widely regarded as just being good for them. Again, this was my first time doing it, so I was a bit nervous about the process or messing them up, but nothing a few YouTube videos can't help you with. So if you're planning on doing it, I recommend just refreshing, watching some YouTube videos, so as you're going into it, you can feel confident about how you're going to be doing it. I started off by lubing all the bottom housings, which will obviously be very fast in the video, but realize this is a super monotonous task, so if you're planning on embarking on this journey for yourself, make sure you have a couple hours to spare, as well as a comfortable chair and maybe some good music or a podcast just to zone out to as you go along. And during this process, I also did put the films on as well, just because I thought if I'm already going to have the switches open, I might as well do the most I can to help with that sound profile. After finishing that, I bag lubed the springs, which makes for a much quicker and streamlined process. And for this, I just use spray lube, which is called Super Lube, and you guys will see me spraying it into the bag here. After shaking the springs for a little bit in the bag, I went ahead and took them out, laid them on paper towel, and just pulled apart the ones that kind of get stuck together as you're shaking it. Let some of that extra lube that was on it drain out onto that paper towel. Then after setting them all in the bottom of the housing, I started lubing the stems, which is, I was in the home stretch, it's super close, giving my back a break from being hunched over that table. After placing all those stems on the springs, the last thing to do was just put that top housing on. After getting all the switches done, I then popped all the freshly lubed switches into that board along with the keycaps on top. And here you guys go. Here's the after and then also before sound test for you guys to compare and hear the difference for yourselves. Overall, I'm super happy with the sound and the way it turned out. Definitely the biggest upgrade would be probably the stabilizers. They sound so much better than they did before, as well as those keys. And when listening to that before and after, you really can tell a big difference there. And I'll be uploading a video very soon of just the difference between stock Kailh Red, a lubed Kailh Red, and then also a lubed and filmed Kailh Red, so you guys can hear more closely the difference between all of those. And then if you're planning on picking them up, you have an idea of the sound profile and what you could expect. Again, my biggest complaint is just with the keycaps overall with my board. That's one thing I would change, and one thing I'm looking into changing right now is the keycaps. And I'll show you the difference because when the spacebar right now, it sounds kind of hollow and pingy. I'll go ahead and switch it out with the one on my Ducky Maya Pro, which is a thicker sub-die keycap, and you guys can hear the sound difference just with the material of the keycap itself on that spacebar. Overall, I thought it was a really fun experience building my first custom keyboard, and I really did enjoy the process as well as the results you get after. Definitely, you see a big upgrade in that sound profile as well as feel from being stock to where it's at now after all that modding. So really fun experience overall. Obviously it does come with a pretty hefty price tag, so I'll definitely be looking to doing some videos in the future where I do this on a more budget hot swap board, so it might be a little bit open up to more of you guys as far as price goes, because I realize not everyone's going to want to spend, you know, a higher price tag on getting all these components and parts to build your own custom keyboard. But let me know down in the comments below, if you guys were to change something on my build that I did, what would it be? What would you do for your own custom build? What's your favorite keycaps or switches or anything like that? Let's go ahead and talk about it down below. But I'll have all the parts and things I did use in my build I have with me today in the description down below. So if you guys want to check out any of those will be down there. Thank you all so much for watching. If you found the video helpful or informative, please do hit that like button for me, and do consider subscribing for more content just like this in the super near future. If you guys have any questions about the process of building it itself, or components or things that go into it, definitely let me know down in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer you with the best answer I can personally, and also as quickly as I can. And I'll see you guys in the next one.